Welcome aboard San Francisco's historic red and white fleet. We've been sailing these waters for over 100 years, so prepare yourselves for an adventure. On our cruise today, I'll be telling you about my hometown, San Francisco. It was voted the #1 tourist destination in America. Look around, and you'll know why. We're going to cruise along the city and out under the Golden Gate Bridge. On the way back, we'll explore the other side of the bay, Marin County, and take a close-up look at the rock, Alcatraz Island. But first, as our captain finishes pulling our boat out of the dock, I want to remind you of a few safety tips. Remember, today is about relaxing and having fun, so please, slow down, walk, don't run, and use the handrails, especially on stairways. Keep your little ones in sight, and remind them not to stand on the benches or sit on the decks. When you're out on the deck, please don't lean over the boat's railing. Life jackets are located under labeled benches on the passenger decks. All right, here we go. That long gray ship we've passed, tied to the next pier, is a diesel submarine, the USS Pompanita. It saw active duty during World War II. You can take a tour of the Pompanita when you get back. It's open every day. You're probably familiar with some of the other attractions down here at Fisherman's Wharf, but how much do you know about its past? Have you ever heard of the Barbary Coast? Well, that's what this wharf was called during California's gold rush days. San Francisco became a boom town almost overnight. A rough and tumble district of warehouses, shanties, and saloons sprang up along here. Stories tell of how in some of those saloons, an unsuspecting sailor might be served a Nicky Finn, a strong drink that would knock him out cold. Then he'd be shanghaied onto a merchant ship. When he woke up, he was forced to work, whether he liked it or not.
Fisherman. Pier 39. Pero el Pier 39 es más para allá. Estos son pier. Todos son pier.
San Francisco was known as a place to let loose and have some fun. Whenever a ship dropped anchor, the sailors would make a beeline to the wharf to indulge in some of the delights of the city, drinking, gambling, and the company of, shall we say, companionable women. As we round the bend, take a look at the ship's dock here at the High Street Pier. Find the ship with the three tall masts. That's the Belfruda. It was built in Scotland in 1886. In her day, the Belfruda sailed the very long and very dangerous trip around Cape Horn at the tip of South America, across the Atlantic Ocean to England and back. In the 1930s, she was retired and brought here to the High Street Pier. But the Belfruda still sees some action now and then. In fact, she had a starring role in the film Mutiny on the Bounty, along with Marlon Brando. Now find the big white ferry boat docked next to the Belfruda. It has a black smokestack. That's the Eureka, once the largest ferry boat in the world. In the 1890s, long before the Golden Gate and Bay Bridges were built, the Eureka carried people, cattle, and even a few traders.
No sé, marica,
Look up the hill behind the breaker. Find the long red brick building. It has a large white sign. That's Ghirardelli Square, in business since 1893. If you like chocolate as much as I do, and that may be hard, you'll have to visit Ghirardelli Square. It once housed a factory that churned out every kind of chocolate you can imagine, and some you haven't thought of yet. Today, however, the factory has been converted to luxury condos, but you can still enjoy some delicious chocolate treats at the Ghirardelli shop. The rest of the square is fun too. It's full of stores and restaurants that offer more delicious treats. Now find the white Art Deco style building near the shore. With its rounded corners, it kind of looks like a ship. Appropriately enough, inside is the San Francisco Maritime Museum, a great place to learn about this region's seafaring past, including the Barbary Coast. Do you see any people on the fishing pier today? If you want to try your luck while you're here, go ahead. You don't need a license. You also might see some swimmers in the water around here. Very brave swimmers. The water in the bay always stays around a chill 56 degrees. But the Dolphin Swim Club dives in every day. See if you can spot any of their bright orange swimming caps.
Still hold me like that. So easy.
Come over here to look around at the city. Have you tried to walk up or down any of those steep streets? Some San Francisco streets are at such a steep angle that their sidewalks have stairs cut into them, just to keep you from falling over. But if you've got a car, don't miss the world's crookedest street. It's called Lombard Street and is located on Russian Hill. Even in thick fog and pouring rain, there'll be a line of cars waiting to wind down Lombard's twisted slope at the posted speed limit of 5 miles per hour. Those green wooded hills we're passing now are part of Fort Mason. The Spanish established Fort Mason when they first came to this area in the mid-1700s. They held the fort until 1850, when the U.S. took it over. The Army built the orange-roofed warehouses you see along here. During World War II, over 1 million American soldiers passed through those buildings on their way to the war in the Pacific. But today, instead of soldiers and supplies, inside those warehouses are a music school, a theater company, environmental organizations, and several museums. Now, look at the neighborhood just past Fort Mason. That's the Marina District. Do you notice anything different about it? Unlike a lot of San Francisco, it's relatively flat. That's because it was once part of the bay. This area was created by a landfill project in 1950 for one of our city's greatest festivals, the Pan Pacific International Exposition. In the eyes of the world, the Panama Pacific Exposition was staged to celebrate the completion of the Panama Canal. But San Franciscans were celebrating an even more important event, the rebirth of their city after the devastating earthquake of 1906. It was the largest quake ever recorded in America, 8.25 on the Richter scale. As buildings toppled, an immense fire broke out. It swept across the city and burned out of control for 3 days and 2 nights. 250,000 people were left homeless. Many lived in tents while the city was rebuilt. Ironically, the land created to celebrate surviving that earthquake was the hardest hit part of the city in the next big one, the Loma Prieta earthquake of 1989. The landfill was unstable, and just as in 1906, as the buildings fell, fires quickly spread. Fireboats were called in right where we are now, and began pumping water from the bay to squelch the flames. Their quick response saved lives, but many Marine residents were left homeless. Some of them camped out in tents while their homes were being rebuilt, just like the 1906 survivors. Now, look past the Marina neighborhood and find the tall domed building. That's the Palace of Fine Arts. It's the only building to remain from the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition. It was just too beautiful to knock down.
¿Ah? Con boyas. Yo creo que indican la profundidad del agua para guiar. ¿Por dónde se pueden ir? Este se las ponen a los que nadan también.
No tenés frío.
No, ahorita no.
Un poquito se oye.
Kiteboarders are joining the action. These brave souls can actually soar 20 feet above the waves
Oh,
like
yeah.
human kites, powered only by the wind.
Subirle el volumen.
Adventure. There's never a dull moment on the San Francisco Bay. Where the trees have been along the shore is the border of the Presidio. Presidio means military fort in Spanish.
Es que paró este.
Military fort all the way back to 1776, just after Spanish conquistadors landed here and claimed the bay for the King of Spain.
Ahí, ahorita.
The fort was built to protect the entrance to the bay, the Golden Gate. The opening to the bay was called the Golden Gate long before there was a bridge. For many years, Spanish ships sailed by this opening. They were fooled by an optical illusion. You see, the mountains surrounding us and mountains behind us looked like a continuous wall. So there appeared to be no opening, especially in long. Legend has it that the Spaniards discovered the Golden Gate accidentally when one of their ships happened to drift through it with the tide. Those green hillsides used to be windswept sand dunes. Over time, the United States military took over the Presidio, and they planted most of the trees you see here. Up on the hill between the trees, you may be able to see the rows of white markers that make up the National Cemetery of San Francisco, established in 1884. What you can't see at the bottom of the hill is a very small and very special cemetery for the deaths of soldiers who served here. Since Army life can mean getting transferred from base to base, the Presidio offered this little plot as a final resting place for dogs, cats, birds, fish, and even a white mouse. The beach along the Presidio is called Crissy Field. Many pioneer aviators made their record-setting landings here. In 1919, it was declared the Army's official airfield. And by the 1920s, there was a regular schedule of transcontinental airmail flights from New York to San Francisco. They made the coast-to-coast trip in a speedy 34 hours. As air travel moved to many airports in the area, Crissy Field fell into disuse, becoming little more than a marsh with broken fences and dumped refuse.
Le vamos a pasar debajo. Debajo del golpe.
Undertook a massive restoration project that increased protected areas for endangered and migratory shorebirds.
Del Golden
Today,
Gate.
it also provides visitors with a beautiful field and close access to the bay. As for the Presidio itself, it's one of the largest urban parks in the United States. If you like to bike or hike, you can get a good dose of both right here without even leaving the city. Some of the park's eucalyptus-scented trails lead to sandy beaches. Others take you to spectacular views from windy bluffs. The park also has many new occupants, including the extensive filmmaking complex built here by George Lucas of Star Wars fame. Before we get to the bridge, let's take one more look back at the city. San Francisco has a reputation of being the city of seven hills. But actually, that's the city of Rome. No, San Francisco has four.
Sí, ya lo 43 colinas.
Everyone knows about the cable cars on those hills. But do you know why they were invented? The streetcars here used to be pulled by teams of horses. It was a brutal job, hauling a whole wagon full of people up and down all day. The story goes that one rainy day, one of the horses slipped and fell. The streetcar began to slide backward faster and faster down the hill and dragged the helpless horses along with it. A man named Alexander Hamilton was Zodiac. He was horrified at having
Es que te lo explique.
he decided there had to be a more secure way to get around.
Mejor que te lo expliques. A mí sí que le chiste.
1873, the city's first cable car was on the road, invisibly pulled by a humming metal cable underground.
La calidad no está riendo de América.
Nosotros pasamos este cerro ahorita que fuimos, donde están las luces, y después nos devolvimos. Y después nos regresamos.
At one time, 126 cameras pointed their eyes down to Outpost Road. Today, you can take a tour of the field and some they'll teach you how to light fire one of those barricades. We have a bridge built over Fort Point. The original plan for the bridge was for the fort to be torn down, but the designer changed his mind. He thought the architecture and history of Fort Point was worth keeping. Enough, though, that he changed his mind. That art and one more tidbit for our movie fans. Fort Point is the place where Jimmy Stewart jumps in the bay and rescues Kim Novak from Hitchcock's film Vertigo.
Shortly, they return to the Please be sure to hold on to the handrail and remain seated. As the instruments spin.
Now we're